Good afternoon or good evening. Today is December 15th, 2021. This is recording 298. Recording 298. He speaks and he shall do it. He speaks and he shall do it. A lot of times we see words or we see promises of God, and we want to believe wholeheartedly that there is this power, this something out there that cares so much for us. And we find ourselves between he speaks and he shall do it. We find ourselves, I call it wondering, or how can I be sure? I have come to a place, and I'm beginning to realize that he does speak and he does do it. It appears to be slow in manifestation because we want to get there quickly. Who would not want to know that their life is safe, wrapped up, bound up, tied up, that they would literally have nothing to be concerned about? Who would not want to know that? And yet we are faced with looking at situations in our world, situations of the day, that appear to tell us this is going to go wrong, this is going to go wrong, or is this going to go right? And I found myself, and I went to the store earlier today, and I found myself wondering as I approached the store, am I going to have to pray, to maintain what I believe I'm finding out? But once I got to the door of the store, I said, I'm just going to accept the fact that the presence of God is with me. I'm just going to accept the fact that I'm going to go in the store and I'm going to get what it is I want, and I'm going to accept the fact that the presence of God is going to guide me through the store. And what was really odd is that's exactly what happened. And I was almost caught off guard with going, oh, wow, till I realized we have to practice the presence. And at some point in time, practicing the presence brings you into a knowing. Now, my brother always looks at me and he says, you always talk about that knowing. I said, yeah. To me, I can hear that word back in the recesses of my consciousness or coming to the forefront. And it's always saying there is a knowing. When you get this knowing, you'll be okay. But as long as you have that wondering, then there's always this unsettledness. And a lot of times, or most of the times, in my case, in situations other than what has just transpired this past week, I get what it is I'm after. But then you look at the big things, what you call the big things, you say, well, why am I not getting that? Why is that not? And that's where that knowing, Jesus Christ had this knowing. The Bible tells us that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word was made flesh. And we begin to think about the fact that if all that was in the beginning was the Word, then what did the Word listen to bring into manifestation that which it wanted to bring into manifestation? Then the Word had to listen to itself, because there was no other entity that the Word could speak to. It could never speak outside of itself. It could never speak to substances that existed outside, because, as it stated, in the beginning was the Word. So we sit and we contemplate the fact that within a word is the fullness of what is to express. So the word can only speak to itself, but the word will never ask of itself what to do because it's the only thing in existence. So therefore it is expressing, as Moses says, I am that I am. Jesus expressed it as I am the way, the truth, and the life. So therefore the word is always expressing itself unto itself and expressing itself outwardly. And we believe that we have to come unto, like the word talking to us. But where would the word speak? But from within us. Because it can only speak unto itself. And if everything that we see external to us is the expression of the word that is spoken to us, then we are seeing that which came to us from within. There is a word that every man and woman should hear, that we must bind in our daily practice. I must hear the word. This word heard declares the freedom and dominion over any obstacle. So then the most important thing for me to do is what? Hear the word. But when we hear it, and I think about the instances where people have told me that they were in prayer, they were in meditation, they were reading a book, which is still meditation, contemplation. They heard a word. They heard a voice. They heard something that spoke. It spoke in such a way that it got their attention, and shortly thereafter, whatever was to accompany that word expressed itself. And normally, in most instances, they say a peace came over them. So then, all that we are looking for is the peace. And we get trapped looking for the manifestation. I want to see the bill paid. I want to see the body healed. I want to see the money collected, or I want to see the promotion on the job. No, it's the peace. It's the peace that accompanies the word. Because the voice that is heard, or the word that is heard, is none other than that of the Creator. Say that again. I remember last week when my sister-in-law said, a lot of times it sounds like me. Well, when you think, who do you sound like? You sound like yourself. And when you sound like yourself, are you not hearing a voice? Even though it may not be audible out here, but you're hearing it. And if you're hearing, how do you know you're hearing something? If it's, how can you hear something that is not spoken? And you begin to think, well, okay, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the Word became flesh. Therefore, the Word spoke unto itself and heard itself, because there was nothing to refute it. And therefore, whatever the Word speaks, now we realize that we have to hold ourselves in a regimen, in attention, to hear what is being spoken. So when that negative thought comes to us, we reject it. When the positive thought comes to us, we contemplate it. And if we accept it, we know what we're going to get, don't we? So we have to make a conscious decision that we are not going to seek outwardly for our guidance. We are going to obey the government. We are going to obey the rules that of the IRS, or the rules of driving a car. We're going to obey those, but our guidance doesn't come from there. Our guidance comes from a voice that says, honor those who are in authority. Now, if someone is in authority and what they're doing is negative, then we go to the voice. And the voice is going to speak within us, be not afraid, it is I. And whatever that negative thing is that's trying to come at you, it has to stop. Why? Because this voice is all powerful. This voice has all dominion. This voice is our guidance. This word will become the mainstay of every experience. So in other words, should I not acknowledge that the Spirit of the Lord is with me? Should I not acknowledge that the word goes before me? Now, if we're not careful, what we'll do is we'll find ourselves saying, I hope. You know, while we're saying the Spirit of the Lord goes before me, somewhere in our attitude, we're saying, I hope it is. That's what we have to drop out, because if there's only a word, the word is self-contained, and whatever's in that word, like we spoke last week about the blueprint laid out on the table. If any man can go, I mean, I've marveled at how they go and look at drawings on and they can talk, and I'm like, no, show me on the wall, show me. No. The word becomes the mainstay of every experience. Who makes the decision that the word is going to be the mainstay of every experience? I do. Wow. So I have to make a conscious decision that I am going to listen for the word. I have to make a conscious decision that I hear the word. How can I make that? Because the Father said, my sheep hear my voice. So that's what I contemplate. I hear the voice of the Lord. But then if I look up and say, but I don't hear it, which one of those is the truth? I decide which one is the truth. If the Father said, my sheep hear my voice, what then do I follow? I hear the voice. Now, information may come at me saying, you didn't hear nothing. Am I going to stop and pay attention to it? Or am I going to believe? Think about the times when someone says, this is what you're going to get for Christmas. What does the child do? They run around talking about what they're going to get for Christmas, don't they? They heard a voice, didn't they? And they are expecting to hear it. Someone comes up to them and says, no, you're not going to get this, blah, 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 and they do what? Oh, you better get out of my face. I'm getting this for Christmas. Because they heard it. Well, see, once we decide that voice is with us, once we decide that we can't escape the voice, once we decide that the doors, like Jesus said, I give unto you the keys to the kingdom. And upon the truth of binding in heaven and binding and loosing in heaven will be bound in earth and loosed in earth. He says, upon this truth I build my church. Well, if he said upon that truth he builds his church, and I look out here and I see evidence contrary to what he said, am I going to say that he didn't know what he was talking about? Or am I going to accept the fact that he built his church on that truth? What I am seeing and feeling is a word active on its own, but it's active because I accept the fact that it is what it says it is. Please excuse me, y'all. I dropped the call, and thank you for being patient. But where I was in this is that there is something working on its own behalf, and it's working in this thing that I call me. And it doesn't need me to do anything but be the paper that it's writing itself on and accept what it has said, whether it appears to be so or not. My sheep hear my voice, and the voice of a stranger, the voice of another, they will not follow. What then is the voice of another? That which refutes what the actual voice has said. And you say, yeah, but it's hard. Okay, what other choice do you have? You can either quit listening to the voice, which is going to throw you over in the scrap pile, and you go back to the ugly world. Well, you don't want to do that. So what do? You just keep pushing forward, going, I hear the voice. Why? Because the voice cannot be separated. Get this, it cannot be separated from the thing that contains it. Where do you hear voices? In your own head. So that voice has the ability to speak to you, and upon the truth that it has established and says that you hear it, the doors of hell cannot shut it. What are the doors of hell? Something that would say, oh, you're just hearing things. So what do? That's why we become quiet. We become quiet speaking to others because we cannot prove to them that we are hearing voices. I hope you heard that, right? You cannot prove to them that you are hearing voices, but you can prove to yourself that you are hearing the truth. How shall this voice be heard except I dedicate myself to listening? I listen for it. It is the voice that sends peace throughout its endless boundaries. Wait a minute. This is what I'm getting for Christmas. What is that person anticipating? Getting something great at the end of a period, right? So what am I saying? I am listening for a voice that sends peace throughout its endless boundaries. So therefore, what is my responsibility? Listen. If I believe that I am truly listening, then I cannot fail because my belief, we talked about that, what I believe is what is going to happen. So therefore, my belief is going to bring forth the expression that I am contemplating. And you say, but what if I die? You can't die. You can sit up and think that you can die, but how can that which did not create itself, how can it kill itself? Or how can it lose its life? There is something greater than what we have been told we are that has created us, and it says, you shall not be plucked out of the palm of my hand. I have covered you with my hand. So therefore, I am receiving information that's telling me that I'm not hearing the voice of God, and I am choosing to believe that information because I cannot make what I want to happen to settle me down that what? You heard the voice, here's your gift. No, he says, trust me. I am he who has created all things. There is no other God. For you to be able to die, there would have to be another God. See, these are the things that come to you in contemplation. For you to be able to die, there would have to be something greater than God. And God has said, what? There is no other God. I am God alone. So therefore, did you hear that voice? If you heard that voice, then the voice of another you will not listen to, even though the voice of the other may be bringing what effects or whatever that make it look like it knows what it's talking about. Who created life? God. In fact, God didn't create life. God is life. This voice fills all vacancies. And when I wrote that, I just mentioned it because it's written on it felt good to write it. But where is a vacancy? God fills all space. So where can there be a vacancy? I create the vacancy by thinking that there's something that is keeping my goodness, my harmony away from me. It's between me and God. Can't be. That would be a vacancy. And if God fills all vacancies, then what's in that spot that I thought was nothing or something negative? It's a lie. God fills all space. It declares its presence wherever needed. Yeah, but I didn't hear anything. Do you believe that God loves you? If you believe that God loves you, then it has declared its presence there. Well, yeah, you did. Didn't you say I believe? If you said I believe, you heard something that caused you to believe. And if you say God fills all space, what can there be between you and God? Nothing. So as I contemplate the presence of God being with me at all times, it declares its presence because I am opening the doors to receive. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. And he has opened the windows of heaven to reveal to me that which I have opened to is with me always. It declares its dominion wherever doubted. When you move into a bad situation or a situation that looks bad and you acknowledge the presence of God with you, does it not declare its dominion there? Its authority over every seeming obstacle? Well, why did that situation just seem to work out? Oh, you was lucky. You was fortunate. You were this. When in actuality, what were you? Acknowledging the presence of God, practicing the presence of God, and it expressed its authority. But there wasn't a big booming, thunder. There wasn't lightning. The earth didn't move, didn't have to. God wants us to accept the fact that we are ever with him, regardless of what a situation looks like, that there is a blueprint within us that knows where it came from, knows who created it, knows what the finished product is like, and is doing this, is doing what it does in spite of all the information. So then, in other words, this world that we're living in is really a proving ground. And it's so messed up as far as everybody's belief that we think we're living in a place that's going to, we're just going to lose out. But no. What did the book of Revelation say? It says, blessed is he who overcomes. Blessed is he who gains the victory. What is the victory? The ability to stand firm in the understanding that the voice of God expresses itself right where I am in spite of what everything around me is saying. And I hold to that. Shall this voice speak and not be heard? Think about that. I didn't hear him. That's a lie. You heard him. You just chose not to believe. You were looking at other information. Shall that which is created say to the Creator, why did you make me this way? You try that if you want to. But did something make you? Yes. So how in the world can I speak to that which made me and tell that I don't like how you made me? And he's saying, or it's saying, I made you in my image and in my likeness. Can you hear the word that said, he who has begun a good work in you shall be with you until the end, the maturity of Christ Jesus? Did you hear that? If you heard that, was that not the voice of God? With people telling you that's heresy? That's blasphemy for you walking around here thinking you're going to be anything like Jesus Christ? Wait a minute, which voice are you going to listen to? See, we hear the voice of God, but because we can't make him do something in 5 minutes, we think, well, I gotta. But Jesus said, I give to you the keys to the kingdom. Did you hear it? If you heard him say that, then you walk around saying he has given me the keys to the kingdom. And somebody says, well, how can you say that? You said, because I heard it. I heard it. Even if you point in the Bible, you heard it. Shall the voice speak and not be heard? I say not. You hear it. For it is so unique that when perceived, one knows that what was heard shall come to pass. I know people who have heard the voice, and shortly thereof, the expression out from them turned into harmony around them. So when you hear the word, you dedicate yourself to hear the word in spite of what is being said otherwise. It says, when you hear it, that which you heard shall come to pass. The voice is heard in many ways, but always recognized by its presence, felt. Some people talk about hair standing up. Some people talk about warm heat on them. Some people talk about a woozing in the head or the skin. But peace. Peace always. So what am I supposed to be doing with my time during the day? Practicing listening. How do I practice listening? By contemplating that which the word has said or what I have read until it speaks back. One only needs to be still, that he experience the joyous tidings of peace, knowing that they sing with it. This word that's within you, you are already singing with it. Why? Because you can't be here without the word. It's impossible. It was the word that was made flesh. Are you not what's called flesh? That means you are the word made flesh. And the waste places of our lives, the places where we don't believe, they spring forth fruitfully. If we would just accept the fact that when the scriptures are telling us that in the desert places, I will make fruitful, you're the desert place. Stop looking to the Sahara. Stop looking to this place over here or the place where they don't have water or they don't. The desert places are the places within our conscience that we doubt. But when you listen for the word, he says, those places shall spring forth mightily. The comfort of the heart is eternally established. Why? Because I know in whom I have believed. The holy arm of the Lord has been revealed. How is it revealed? Through a voice. Through a voice which no man can take from me. You can threaten me all you want to, but if I know that the voice speaks, then I sit and do what? I listen. He who has stumbled in darkness of ignorance has found his voice. What is my treasure? Listening, because I know that the voice speaks, and when the voice speaks, that which it speaks to conforms to what it says. And where does it conform from? From within me. It has no other place to speak. It can't speak from outside of me. It has to speak from within me. And if it speaks from within me, then I have the petition. What is the petition? The petition is to hear the voice. Stop praying for the solution and pray to know the solution maker, the voice. From it, we cannot stray. And to it is an unwavering dedication, for he shall speak and he shall do it. God bless.